when we do the mobile.
Hi, everyone. Is everyone seated? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is Track and Convert. I'm Pamela Fasolo with InRadius.
And I'm Elliot Pearson. I'm with InRadius. I am the CTO.
And just a little bit about InRadius and what we do. We're actually located right here in ETC, and we do digital advertising strategy, planning, and management. So it's my job to help businesses plan and strategize their online advertising campaigns, and that at InRadius we run them, manage them, and track them. So what we're going to cover in this session, we're actually going to go over Google Analytics 4, the brand new Google Analytics that I feel like has flipped analytics on its head. And Elliot's going to tell you more about that and what that does. But we're also going to talk about how you can use that data to better run your advertising campaigns and how you can track your advertising campaigns for better results and what some of the things that you can do with your conversions, your tracking, and your reporting.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I like to call GA. A lot of people don't realize that advertising and marketing has evolved a lot over the past couple decades. And what has happened is you actually have to have a lot of technology that's in place before you can even spend like $1 on advertising. And what's happening a lot of times is that you really need to understand where your spend is going. And one way you do that is through analytics. And Google actually released this great service like back in 2005, which is like 18 years ago. It's like old enough to drive and even go to the military. And it's called, Google Analytics. And they actually have released multiple iterations, but the one that most people are on is really called Universal Analytics. And it's this kind of ticking time bomb that people don't realize that July of next year, they're going to turn off that current version of Google Analytics. And they have a replacement called a GA4, but a lot of people are using it, but they don't realize this. And so that was one thing we really had to, talk through and like we were like, hey, we got to talk about this because this is a problem a lot of people don't know about. So we can go to the next slide.
And there's a deadline, right?
Yes, July of next year. So before, Universal Analytics really had this this model that was really focused on page view. And if you think about it, that's not the world we live in. You have mobile apps, you have browsers, and it's different ways for you to actually understand how your users are interacting with your properties. So Google looked at this and they said, hey, we need a better model. Model is more simplistic. You really have this idea of you have users and these users have events. And this may not look like a super simplistic, model here, but this is actually a lot more simplistic to reason with as a developer. So next slide. Very clean dashboard. Log in, anybody can log in. The great thing about Google is they try to get you in the door and then you get it, you use it, and then you can spend money. And so they give you these free tools. So you put a little snippet on your website and then you get access to this dashboard. You let it collect a little bit of data. And when you look at it, it's a very clean interface. You have, various reports you can go to, and it makes it very, very easy to like really kind of look at your data, and you pretty much get it for free. Go to the next one. So this is what reporting looks like. You go in, couple clicks, it can tell you how many users you're getting, the actual number of like your average engagement, and then you can actually see things that are happening in real time. So you have some real-time components over here. Great thing about this is just giving you all of these insights just by adding a little bit of information to your site. So the big thing that has moved with Google Analytics is really this idea of events. So you can actually declare your own events, and it's very easy to plug them into either your mobile apps or even your websites. And events are very critical because it actually models a lot of the things that were in the old model, but it also allows you to create what we call audiences, and we'll talk about that next. So you get a couple audiences out of the box. One would be really this idea of all users. It's really anybody that comes to your property. The other one is really this idea of people that purchase things on your property. If you're running an e-commerce store, if you are running like a Shopify affiliate site, those are things that you can kind of put people into different buckets. And you have the ability to look at someone goes to this page and they also go to like this screen in your app. You're able to actually take those events together and create a cohesive audience. And that's very useful for when you want to remarket to people. And Pamela will be talking about that a lot more in detail.
Oh, did I go to?
No. So the one thing that I would love is for Pamela to really walk us through how she would actually use some of that data, since we kind of looked at the power of what GA could do for us.
Yeah, so what I love about GA4 is how before the old analytics was really centered around your website, page views, time on site, bounce rate, things like that. But now it's more audience focused, and it takes the audience to the center. What are they doing? Who are they? So one of the things that you can do with the audiences is when you remarket them, kind of put them in different buckets, and you can remarket different messages to different audiences. You can really take a look at what people are doing on the site and just really be able to use this data as you want to, being able to improve the pages on your site for different people, but then also sending certain specific messages to those specific buckets.
So one thing that Google actually gives you as you start to use GA is really this idea of interest. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this whole idea of Google turning off what they call third-party cookies. So basically what you can do as a marketer, you can actually get information from someone's site, third party, and then you can advertise against that. Google is stopping that. Apple has already done it, and there's other big players that are like, hey, we really don't want to have that much user information being socialized, and people can, market against that. So what Google is looking at is for alternative. They actually call it interest, and really it's this idea based on your activity across multiple properties, some of it being yours, being first party. You're able to understand various categories that people fall into, and as a marketer, you can actually remarket to that or retarget those interests. So it gives you the ability to with GA, you can actually look at what interests your current users they have affinity to. Then you can actually go throughout the web and go on channels like YouTube and even Facebook and be able to refine people with these interests.
Right. So as Elliot said, what I would do as a strategist with this information, which I really love how they're really taking the audience, your target audience or your potential audience or anybody currently on your site, and you're now finding out more about them, of who they are. Who are they off of your site as well, by giving you other interests and other things that they're doing on the other Google pages. So you can see, do they have an interest in sports? Do they have an interest in entertainment? Things like that. So you can take those topics, you can link GA4 to their other ad platforms, and you can run ads against those topics to build your audience even bigger. You'll be able to reach new people that are going to Google, also matching your audience that has an interest in your product because your other website visitors have an interest in those topics. So not only that, but you now have a good insight of, since you know more about your web visitors, you can actually take that information off of Google platforms as well, because those topics are available on other platforms as well. So you can go to your Facebook ads and match those audience interests. You can go to other ad platforms. Google is great, but there's a ton of other advertising platforms out there as well. And with the lack of third-party cookies, you can now expand what other platforms you run on. And then also same thing with streaming video, OTT, all those different digital video, all those different types of platforms. You now know, okay, I know who I am targeting now. So I really wanted to talk more about why this is all important and why you really need to dive into your Google Analytics, set up these audiences, set up these events, and really take a deep dive and take your time looking at what your Google Analytics are doing. Because when you run your advertising campaigns, you don't want to really guess at what you're doing. You want to make sure that you're tracking everything to make really smart advertising campaigns. You want to use your Google Tag Manager to set up pixels to be able to track your advertising and your different advertising channels and platforms to really not only see what they're doing beyond clicking, but then also follow the user from the top of the funnel, which is brand interest or brand introduction, all the way to conversion. And the reason why that's important is because you really need to understand what your customer journey is. So it's not just, especially if you have a long decision-making process on your product, you need to understand what steps the user is going through before they make a decision to buy, and kind of follow them and guide them along the way with different advertising platforms and different remarketing. So, you may not get that conversion, that form fill on the first click, on the second click, but you can then remarket them. You can then reach out to more users and things like that. So this is an example of a customer journey map. So I want you all to take a study of what yours is for your business and really determine what are they doing from the moment they're interacting with your brand for the first time, from the moment that they're making a purchase, and then telling their friends about you. And that can be for nonprofit as well. Just switch out purchase with donation or volunteerism or something like that. And then you also have to then take that customer journey and then match the customer journey with the different tactics to lead them through the funnel, because different digital advertising tactics work for different parts of the funnel. You have your branding ad tactics, you have the middle of the road with getting the introduction to or the engagement with the brand all the way down to the purchase. So you want to make sure you're using the tracking, the analytics, and the remarketing to kind of guide the user through that funnel. So I just want to do a quick case study for a real advertiser. So this is a university that's a postgraduate university, so they have PhD programs and master's degree programs. And so they know that they have a very long customer cycle. From when they capture the first email address to enrolling in the school, they know takes about a year, because it's a long decision. It's a big commitment to decide to go to graduate school and get a PhD or go to any kind of graduate program. So they have a very long lead nurture process. And so what we wanted to do with their advertising is make sure that when we're tracking conversions, we're not just tracking the main form, which is circled in red there. That's the one on the left is their main landing page when you click on the ad. We are tracking everything that they're doing. So all 4 of these, where the red arrows are, where those programs are, we're tracking every single one, and we can see who's clicking on which one. And as soon as they get to the page, we're also retargeting them. If they leave the page without putting in a form, without leaving their email, we are then remarketing them. And we can track each one of those 4 different buckets. If they do click on one of the 4 programs, they get to the page on the right. They have another opportunity to fill out a form. They have opportunity to get more information. But then after a few seconds, that pop-up comes up with a shorter form to also get more information. Once they leave their email address, they are then in a 6-time email remarketing campaign. So what we're doing is we are looking at not just who's clicking on the ad and filling out a form, but we're giving the user multiple chances to get that email address and multiple ways of capturing them on their advertising because they're being remarketed. So just different multiple ways to do that. And I wanted to add in some other location data technology that we have. So we have some mobile location technology. This is really cool. This uses cell phone data to determine where people are coming from when you have a brick and mortar location. So we can look at basically any location, and using cell phone data, determine things like where they're coming from, how long they've been there, what time of day they're coming from, what brands they visit before and after. And it's really, really cool. And what this does is it kind of gives us an idea of where you want to run your advertising. Is there any other kind of ad campaign that you can do to improve how to reach your target audience? So just showing you, this is weekly visits. This is actually, I pulled a location not far from here, a local business. And so you can see their visits year to year. This is the customer journey. It tells you where the user, the visitor was before and after they went to that location. So you can see where else they're visiting. And it also shows you where those people have, what their favorite brands are, where they have shopped. So how I use this data is I go to the advertiser and I say, hey, you have people at your location who also visit these other locations, let's geofence those locations too. Or you have people looking at these brands, let's target that interest, because if they're interested, more people who are using that brand will be interested in your brand. So it's really a great way to do a cross-platform. So last topic I wanted to get into was how you take a look at all of this and measure everything to figure out the success of your campaign and what's working and what's not working. I have a lot of advertisers who want to tie this ad click to this conversion. So it's really more than that, though. There's really more than one way to determine if something is successful or not. So when you have a programmatic advertising campaign, let's say you're running banner ads and you're getting 1,000 clicks a month, that's not really the end of the story of what you should be looking at to see if those banner ads are working. So this is an example of Google Analytics for someone who was having an event. He was running ads on programmatic geofencing and social media. And so what this is showing us in the Google Analytics when we were tracking that is that advertising was not only helping the ad traffic, but also you can see the organic search went up. The ad started on August 28th, and you can see the big spike on August 28th, the day the ad started. Their organic search went up, their organic Facebook went up, so many other options, so many other tactics went up, and units of measurement went up. So now I can go back and say, not only did these ads give you this many clicks to your website and this many conversions, but let's look at the analytics and what does that tell us about, what do we see the organic Google, what are they doing, what are those users doing on your website, because we can attribute the ad campaign to the organic as well, because it all went up at the same time the ad started. Elliot, do you want to go over to key takeaways?
Yes. Again, we have this time bomb, July of next year. Things are just going to stop working. And if you do use these packages, you may want to go ahead and start investing in like upgrading. It's very, very simple. If you need help, like we would definitely be willing to help you. I think the other thing is really, you don't really have to be, it doesn't take a lot of energy or a lot of knowledge to be able to start looking at your data, tracking your data, and actually making decisions on it, because you may actually be doing very well on certain channels and you just don't know, and it can really help drive your business. And that's one thing would be great for you to kind of think about a little bit differently, that anybody can do this now. If you're talking about like remarketing or running campaigns to try to find more users or more clients, there's tool sets out there that can do it for you very, very easily. The other thing is, you really should look at your sales funnel. I am a technologist. I've been a software developer, manager for years, but I do understand the concept of a funnel and a customer funnel, and you really should understand that. And it's one of those things that you can do as a software developer that really helps the business of understanding the funnel, but you really should do that as a business owner, regardless of what your role is. I think the other thing is, track all of your events. There are tools out there that you can basically get these things for free. You add a little bit of snippet somewhere, and then all of a sudden you're actually just illuminated with all your data. That's really, really important, and it helps really drive your business, because if you're not looking at your data, you're really probably not asking very, I would say, existential questions to your business. And that's something that I think a lot of people get away with, where you kind of do some things and you may be successful, you may not, but you're really not tracking it to say, like, am I actually setting goals and hitting those goals based on my assumptions?
Can I add one thing that I missed
definitely.
in the last slide that I was explaining with the university, is that when you're putting these conversion pixels on, the platforms that you're running on have algorithms that will help optimize the campaign based on these conversion pixels. So the algorithms actually look at for you where people are clicking and when they're clicking and who they are, and really determine where the ads should run based on those algorithms. So when they see, okay, these users are clicking on this program, or these users are filling out these forms, let's serve the ad to more people like them. What time are they converting? What types of websites are they converting from? Are they clicking from? And the ads will continue to run closer to, let's say, the zip codes that they're coming from, or the websites that they're coming from, or time of day that they're coming from. More ads will serve organically. So that is another really good reason to have tracking pixels as well.
And I guess one thing to kind of like just ask a couple questions of the audience, like, how many people have heard of TikTok? How many people have actually used TikTok before? How many people have actually posted a TikTok video? Okay, so the one thing that's happening is that TikTok is a medium that people like go to and they consume media. And you may actually, as a business owner, you may want to start doing TikToks. And you may go, wow, I didn't even think about I should be advertising on TikTok. But when you kind of look at your lens, you really should expand it because it's so many channels out there. And really being able to track your users across multiple channels is the way to be successful nowadays. So.
And I think that's it. It is.
We have questions.
Yes.
Yeah, it's for Elliot. I'm going.
Oh, okay.
All right, so Mr. Google sent me an email in July of 2022 telling me I needed to add a snippet or something for, that I needed to add a snippet to my website, and I played with it for a few minutes. I couldn't figure it out and realized I didn't care. So, my question is, what happens if I do nothing in July of 2023?
Yeah, so you would go into the interface, and the data that's showing up, let's say June, it'll just stop showing up in July. So if you do nothing, your snippet will still be out there. You're just not collecting data. They don't collect the data on those endpoints anymore.
So 2 questions. First question is with TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, are you able to see that data in Google Analytics now with GA4?
You can be very, very sophisticated. So there's things called tracking codes. So when you're actually showing certain media on different platforms, you can add these tracking codes, and that information can get back over to Google. There's other ways for you to get that information over. A lot of people are figuring out ways to take a lot of this third-party data and make it first-party. So there are ways. It's just kind of depending on the situation of your setup.
And are there any tools in there where you're able to now see as far as people who are buying, people who are purchasing based on all that activity that's being tracked in Google Analytics?
Yeah, I think the thing you got to be very, very careful about looking at purchase data. Like, let's say you just had all of like Amazon's purchase data, right? I think you really should look at the subset of your customers, but there are tools where people will sell you their data, like sell other people's data all the time. But I think really with this new movement to GA4, you really should be looking at your data and understanding what your customers are saying. And also you can subsect your customers to say, I have group A that I'm going to call this audience. I have group B. And then you know how you can market differently to each one. Yeah, I think the one thing that when you think look at a lot of these programs, it's really about cost per impression, and it's more of kind of this branding, but you don't care about that. You really care about people converting or people doing something. I want someone to sign up for my newsletter. I want someone to buy this car from me. That's moving to this world of really conversions. We call it like, CPA or like cost per action. You can actually set your targets for your campaigns that way. So it's really about making sure you set your campaign objectives correctly. But yes, you can do that. You can actually come up with your audience of people that are way down the funnel, and that's your audience of people that are ready to buy. And then you just need to give them a little bit more advertising to push them over the line. That's something you can easily do with GA4.
Hi. Speaking on TikTok, I'm one of those people who kind of like hopped on the TikTok trend right when it got popular. So I gained 33,000 followers on TikTok within less than a year, just about. But all my other social media forms are nowhere near that. And I know you just talked about the conversion rate, but I do everything organically. I don't run ads specifically because I don't think it gives me the right demographic of people I'm looking for. So I guess my question for that is, how do you transition people to other forms of social media without paid ads and doing it organically? Because I just feel like that gives a better pool of people.
Yeah, great question. So we talk about, I think one thing that people don't really think about that much is it's this great cool tool called Google Search Console. And for any property, you can actually see how well you do in organic search. I think that's something you may want to look at is figure out, like, you know, you can actually see across multiple properties where your traffic is coming from. And I think you can actually look at certain things through the combination of, you know, Google Analytics and also Search Console to be able to figure out what are you doing right on certain channels to drive growth in other channels. And if you want to talk about that in more detail, please, let's talk about it later. We'll talk about it after this one.
Hi, this is super interesting information for me. Quick question, going back to the snippets, the ones that'll be going out of service in July. Are they still collecting information even though it's not producing it to me? Because if that's the case, how do I retrieve that information if it's still in the ether and it's still collecting because I didn't shut it down, right?
Yeah. So to make sure I don't get in trouble with Google, I think probably if Google actually has anything up, I think they can still collect data. I think they're just not doing any what we call aggregations so that you as a user can access that. I will say that there is an easy way for you to kind of like take an existing property and convert it, and that way you don't lose access to your data. Because regardless of what Google does, I think you still want to make sure you get access to your data and insights of your users. Because I don't work for Google, I will say I don't know, but I would say if Google has an endpoint up, I'm pretty sure they're still collecting the data, regardless if they're aggregating it for you. But again, I don't work for Google.
Elliot, how do they get onto Google Analytics 4 now?
Yes, we'll just have a link for you, but I think if you just type Google Analytics and like search, it'll just pop up. It'll be the first term, and you just sign up for an account. It uses your Google account, so if you already have like Gmail or something, you can just connect it right there. And Google has tons of other services that you can use through that same account. I think you in the front, you actually have one?
Oh, yeah. I saw something about July 2023. I didn't come in early enough to see what relevance that was.
Yeah, just to recap, if you are using Universal Analytics, which is 95% of what people in the web are using, you can go into Google Analytics today and see reports based on your user activity. After July, you will no longer see those reports. They are no longer producing, they're no longer aggregating that data and say, here, user, here's your data. So really what they're trying to do is encourage people to switch, but a lot of people aren't really even aware that this is happening.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then for Google Analytics is for websites and for apps. Does it also do like pages, like Facebook social media pages too? Like they'll track that as well?
Yeah, that's a really great point. It used to be that it was so page-centric and was really website page-centric. And now it's really about events. Events can come from everywhere. Like some people that do like mobile app development, they use packages like Firebase. You can create events in Firebase that you send over to Google Analytics. So it's very flexible. You define your events. It can come from anywhere. Facebook pages is one thing that you can actually send events to Google Analytics.
Okay. Yeah, so you can incorporate many different sources like Eventbrite plus Facebook.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you can use it as kind of like an information sink where you just kind of put everything in, and then you can aggregate it and create custom audiences based on events that come from disparate places.
Okay. And then the audience, like by custom audience, yeah, what do you mean by custom audience?
Yeah, let's say I got a nice little app that allows people to check into this event. Like I run wine festivals. I really don't, but let's just say I run wine festivals, and what I want people to do in order to get into the wine festival, they have to check in. So what I do is I actually have the app send an event to Google Analytics, and then I run some ad campaign beforehand. What I can do is say, hey, people who saw this campaign on the web and they checked in at my wine festival, I'm going to build an audience of that group, and then I'm going to remarket against them. So it doesn't really matter where the events are coming from. You just get it into Google, and then you define those events and create an audience from it.
Okay, sorry about getting back to this thing of do nothing. When I started with Google Analytics, I don't think I had to, if I remember correctly, I didn't have to put in a snippet. Am I correct on that?
It depends on what year you did it. I will say that it's normally a tag that's associated. I'm calling it a snippet. It's normally like a tag. It's like Java. It's like a little JavaScript.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I had to do it.
I think you had to define your property, and you had to put that property somewhere. And sometimes it depends on, like, I think if you're using like WordPress, you're not putting in a snippet. It's just you have a plugin that you just type in that ID value, and that's it.
I'm using Blogger. It's theirs.
Blogger. Yeah, Blogger actually has you just put in the ID. So you don't have to put, yeah, that's a good point. That is a really good point. So based on whatever your package is that's managing your property, you may not have to enter a snippet. You may
Right.
just have to put an ID.
You're jogging my memory. I had to
Thank
put
you.
in an
Yeah, you're
ID.
right. You're
Okay.
right. You're right. You don't have to
okay.
drop JavaScript everywhere. Sometimes you can just put an ID in.
So they're still going to be collecting my data, just not giving it to me in July of 2023.
Again, Google, if you're if you're listening, I would think that Google is still getting that data, but they may actually in their policy say no, they're not going to collect the data.
So-
I don't know. I think I would have to look at Google's
Ken,
policy.
how do I get them to stop collecting my data?
Yes, pull your tag. So either remove if you say I want to make sure Google, like Universal Analytics, even though I used to use it, I don't want people to use it today. How do I stop it? You can just remove it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want to do nothing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really, really good point.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I'm totally new to Google Analytics. In fact, I'm probably gonna. Oh. Yeah, I said I'm probably gonna download Google for Analytics after this. But are you able to, let's say someone's searching for something specific, like Halloween parties near me? Are you able to capture an audience that are looking for those keywords?
Yeah, that's been around for a long time. That's just traditional Google search. So you can create through a Google Ads campaign, another Google product. You can actually create a campaign that is a search campaign. It runs on the search network. You type in your keywords. You talk about how much you want to pay per click. Run your campaign. Load your creatives. That's it. Just
Okay.
yeah.
So that stuff is like paid.
Yeah, that's really, I kind of think of search being in kind of two worlds. One being this concept of SEM, search engine marketing, where you're actually paying dollars, and then SEO is search engine optimization. You're trying to figure out how to rank high in those organic search results.
Okay. Interesting.
Any other questions?
What are some interesting findings that you found from Google Analytics?
Yeah, the one thing that used to happen is really people cared about what was called bounce rate. And bounce rate was this weird thing where you would just try to figure out, like, you put a page out there and are people really, like, is it enough information that it has stickiness? So people come to a page and they go, I'm going to keep reading, I'm good. As opposed to, I read, nope, don't like it, let me go get another result. Google can actually see that because they see all of your activity over time. Right now, as you start switching, we started switching customers over, and even our properties, we realized that bounce rate is really kind of like not important for us. We're looking at other metrics, like, we want to actually see like total engagement time or does engagement increase over time. So these vanity metrics like bounce rate don't really apply to us, but using a new model that's really event-based, we can actually figure out the things that's really important. So that's been kind of the biggest thing. You don't really know what you get until you get it and use it and you go, oh yeah, this is so much better than what we had before, so.
Yes, it all seems very technical indeed. I'm a social media newbie, and you asked the question about TikTok. Have you ever used TikTok or posted a video? I put up my hand because I have posted one single video which I was pushed into from a class I attended as a trial. I did that several times and it kept disappearing, and finally I posted it. So my question is, with, from TikTok to LinkedIn to Instagram and so forth, everything is so new to me personally. So struggling to even figure out how to use it, let alone to track. So this, your Google for Analytics, does it track across the board from IG to LinkedIn, and then does one need almost a degree in how to figure it out, or do you offer that service to people to help them do
Yeah,
that?
I am not a salesman. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But yes, we do offer those services. The great thing about an analytics package like GA4 is that it doesn't really matter where your events come from. You can define them and just send them. So yes, you can have that tracking across multiple, like what I like to call channels. But the great thing about, this conference and this community, like Baltimore has a very strong tech community, and we always want to be able to take people that want to go places. Like if you're like, hey, I have no clue about this, but I want to learn about it because I think it can help my business. Trust me, you'll find somebody in Baltimore, especially in the Technically group and the ETC, that will be willing to help. So I think when you want to kind of learn more specifics, just try to reach out to somebody like me or other people that are in this community, and we'll definitely help out. So we always want to make people more like educated and able to drive business, because that's the cool thing about Baltimore. Like, help somebody helps everyone else out.
And I'd like to add to her question as well. So, I think if you feel super pressured to learn the new social media, think about where your target audience is, because each social media platform has a unique target audience, a unique set of users. So, really study not only the different audiences on each of those platforms and where your target audience is, but like where is your target audience and what are they using? If you have a 55 plus target audience, you want to be on Facebook. You don't really have to worry about TikTok if that's not where they're going to be. But if you have a younger audience, teenagers, 18-year-olds, 20-somethings, Generation X is also pretty big on TikTok as well. That's a growing trend as well. So that's when you would want to really learn TikTok. And so you can definitely contact me. I have my cards out on the table over there if you want to contact me. We do social media advertising as well. We more go run the ads part of it rather than the organic, but that's something that I'm always willing to jump on a call and teach.
We can help out with organic too, so just let us know.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for your time.